I am a brand new counselor. I have added a student by clicking Add Student, added a student, hit Create, and changed their status to active. And now the student's name is at the top of the screen, and I have the opportunity to click to Counselor List and begin my search. I have these visuals to help me get started. I'm going to go to Menu, and I'm going to click Search, or I could add schools by name, or I could use my database. If I go to my database, there are already these pre-made lists for me, or I can go back to accredited degrees and I can start by one of these larger categories, or I could become more detailed. These are much broader stroke categories than you'll typically find. I then can choose these filters. You'll notice that these filters are built on and instead of or. So if I were to say admissions rate and GPA, I'm going to get a much smaller list. If I use one or the other, I can then narrow my search again, perhaps by region. I could then omit states from the region, or I could search by locale, but I would be choosing an and, Northeast and Rhode Island if I were to choose locale, and then I would drive down the list even more. These search filters go pretty deep. When I want to select a school to move that to the counselor's list to take a closer look, I click and that moves the school to the list. I receive a message telling me that the school has been moved to the list. I can always go back and do another search, or go forward, or choose my database and show what is on the selected list, or I can import those and make that my own list. When I make it my own list, I then can edit that list simply by changing the tags that are associated with that list. And again, I can add schools to the database. I can click Done in the bottom right-hand corner and I will be returned to the counselor's list. I have lots of data that I can choose from, and all three of the lists, counselor's list, student's list, or the app tracker, can choose to have different data columns, can choose to move those columns, can choose to have some default columns. I will now go to the college data menu where I can shop for additional deep dive data. I can also create my own deep dive data if I would like to. This key up here lets me know how many columns I have turned on per list, and all lists can be different. I then can close and promote schools to the students list by clicking on the graduation cap. Going to the students list, I then can see the college list in tile view, or I can switch to grid view. Again, I have different columns. Each list columns has its own set of components and functionality, whether that is including external links in a column for your student, or writing notes to the specific student, or turning the last column into a back and forth communication text box. The student can then rate and rank their schools. They can select the school to be moved to the app tracker. Once the school is moved to the app tracker, each one of the status columns is placed next to the policy column, and then can initiate assignments and tasks directly from the status column. These darker blue columns are your application outcome columns. I will leave the rest of this explanation to the next video that is called How to Set Up Your App Tracker.